to Living Low Sodium with Mary Schiff. Join Mary as she tickles your taste buds with her salty wit and her exceptional palate, all whilst guiding us through the land of low sodium living. Brought to you in part by the support of Reeses Barkery Pawtique. ReesesBarkery.com, 815-363-7297. All right, today we're still talking about healthy for the holidays. And there's more than one way to cook a bird.
Right? And you know what? You should look that up. We were talking about it here a second ago, and the play on words, like more than one way to skin a cat. Why do they call it? Why would you want to skin a cat?
I don't know. Let's see where that came from.
I'm sure it's some nasty medieval thing.
Right.
I was thinking about this because you have these traditions, and everybody has, your holiday traditions, and you go somewhere and there's the guilty pleasure. Like mine is stuffing. And I am a glutton for stuffing. I will, in the bird, out of the bird, doesn't matter. Sausage, no sausage, cranberries, no cranberries, doesn't matter. Anybody's house that I go to for any holiday, any Thanksgiving, and I absolutely love the stuffing. But of course, for those of us in the low sodium world, most pre-made stuffing mixes are heavily salted because, why? Salt tastes good. That's why. So not just in differences to how to cook the bird, but how to make these meals, how to have different options and different choices, or ways that you can have essentially the same meal or dish with some tweaks to make it a little bit better. Did you find something?
Yeah, it says there's more than one way to skin a cat is a proverb, which is a short, common saying or phrase that particularly gives advice or shares. Okay, so that's what we will examine. Okay, there's more than one way to skin a cat, where it came from. And I don't know. It just tells me what a proverb. The oldest known use of the phrase dates back to 1854 in the work Way Down East, or Portraitures of Yankee Life by Seba Smith. However, there's more than one way to skin a cat has its roots in old similar phrases such as there are more ways to kill a cat than choking it with cream.
I figured it had to be some medieval morbid way that people that didn't like cats.
So instead of saying that, maybe we say there's more ways to kill a cat than choking it with cream.
I think we're just gonna skip that saying altogether because I'm a cat lover and I have 2 cats and I'd rather not skin nor kill them.
It's never a polite.
And cats aren't supposed to have cream, just like we're not supposed to have milk. You're not supposed to drink other creatures' milk products. But
no.
That's a topic for another show. So stuffing is one of those things where I, early on, I had learned that I can take, and it was purely by accident. I was buying these loaves of bread from the grocery store for a while, this low sodium or no salt Swiss bowl bread. Mm-hmm. And they weren't sliced. So the first couple that I bought, I sliced them at home, made sandwiches, whatever. So after a while, I'm like, this is a pain in the butt. I don't want to have to slice it I know, first world problems, whatever. But I didn't want to slice the bread before I had to make sandwiches. So I just asked the baker if I could have it sliced like sandwiches. Yeah. And then because my thought process at the time was not only am I going to slice it by sandwiches, I'm going to see if I can make croutons out of this to see if I can make. And I just pictured myself trying to cross cut all of this bread and I'm just going to mutilate it and it's going to be horrible. So maybe if she cuts it down to sandwich size from there and she goes, well, yeah, no. And I said, I think I'm going to make stuffing out of it. She goes, oh, well, I can cut it for stuffing for you. And it was this aha moment for me that I had this low sodium bread, had them cut it into the little chunks, roast it off, made cubes out of it. And boom, I was able to make my own low sodium stuffing, which I have made every year since then. And it's absolutely fabulous. And it's something that I can still gorge on, because that was my thing, is I can have a piece of corned beef if I really, really wanted it. But that's like when I get to have 2 potato chips. No, just, I'm not going to have them at all. I'm not even going to bother. Like, that's just not even fair.
2 bags, different story.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But, well, that's like the ones that the impulse buy at the retail stores.
Right.
And they're the bigger bag in the checkout aisle. you look at the back and it's like, this is 3 servings. Oh, hell no. No,
This ain't
this
making it out of the
isn't
parking
fair.
lot.
That's not right. It's just not right. That's not 3 servings. I mean, you're lucky that you get 2 servings out of a full-size bag of potato chips with me.
Another thing that's good this time of year are those oyster crackers that are
Yeah.
with stuff on them. Always good.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, I mean, everything that you...
Salt.
Crackers, chips,
Yeah.
potato chips, all it is a vehicle for salt. And flavored salt to get into your face hole. And I'm not going to say that they don't taste good, and I don't splurge on them from time to time, and maybe a little bit too much than I should, and I pay for it dearly. But there's like, that instead of the more ways to skin a cat, there's more ways to cook a bird. And I think a lot of people from that true to the word perspective, cooking poultry around Thanksgiving, all of the birds that you see are brined.
Yeah.
So whenever it's funny, you see a grocer somewhere across the country that has an unsalted, unbrined bird available, in the message boards in our low sodium groups blow up. If anybody's got a Kroger near them, if anybody's got a Safeco, if anybody's got a Safeway, if anybody's got a Mariano's, wherever it is, you might want to call and check, because mine they only had 10 of them. Everywhere else, they've got coolers upon coolers upon coolers of $1.99 a pound birds. And then the low sodium ones, of course, are 10 times more expensive.
Yeah.
I now switched and just pay for good quality and get it straight from the farm. And I'm going to warn you now, you're not going to pay 99 cents a pound or $1.99 a pound for a bird fresh from the farm. They're raised properly. They're not brined. They're processed properly. And they're, $5, $6, $7 a pound.
And this year,
amazing.
even the mass-produced ones, there's not as many, so you're probably not going to get that $1.99.
Oh my gosh, the amount of people that have been messaging me about eggs and poultry and all of this stuff, because the prices are through the roof, because farmers are culling them in the hundreds of thousands because of bird flus. And it's not the first time this has happened. Every single year, there's a different. It happens every year. Farmers are used to it. They know the protocol. They know what to do. Mm-hmm. So it's just, this year happened to be a really, really bad year.
Yeah.
So they got hit pretty hard. But
and what was it? 10, 15, 20 years ago, we decided to deep fry.
Right.
And burn down houses.
So my husband and I, one of the Thanksgivings we spent with my sister's in-laws, and we used to go quite often. So all of a sudden you hear all the sirens, like, what is going on? And sure enough, the guy literally across the street from my sister's father-in-law's house decided to deep fry a bird. And I don't even believe it was on his back deck, because that's what we had assumed. But it was close enough to the house that he lit half his house on fire, and that was his Thanksgiving. So all Thanksgiving, it was like someone set up Christmas lights early, because we're all inside, their house eating dinner and doing our holiday things and having conversations, and you can see all of the lights flashing all night long, because the neighbor's house went up in smoke because they deep fried a bird.
Yeah.
I will say my next oven is going to be a convection oven. And I don't think I'm ever going to cook a bird the same way, the traditional whole giant turkey again.
Yeah. Why not?
The first time, we love spatchcocking poultry, regardless of what it is. Cornish hens, game hens, chickens, whatever it is. Spatchcock, you remove the spine and lay the whole bird flat, because then you're not having to get that heat to penetrate all the way through this giant bird. They cook faster. So one year I thought, I don't feel like doing a giant turkey. I didn't have the right roasting pan. I thought I did. It got lost in the move, whatever it was. Had to figure out how to cook this giant bird. So I spatchcocked a bird. I do have the picture somewhere. It's absolutely hysterical, because at the time I didn't have the strength. I'm pretty sure it was right after my spine issue. Either way, when you spatchcock something, the bones inside poultry, they're hollow. They got to fly. I mean, even
Right.
chickens that don't fly, their bones are still hollow. So you push a little bit and it just lays flat. Like everything cracks and it just lays flat. Turkeys are a big bird. So it takes a little bit more, weight behind you. So here's this, it looked like the whole breast of this bird is still sitting there. And of course, these giant wings are sitting out to the side and the turkey legs are up. So it looked like this turkey is in this most horrible position. Ben comes walking around the corner and sees this turkey like splayed out like it's waiting for something in the roasting pan. And he's, what on God's green earth are you doing? I'll have to share the picture afterwards because it's absolutely hysterical. But I think that was a 13-pound bird and it cooked in less than an hour.
Wow. So
now I have gotten into that habit of, I mean, the only reason that I really cook a turkey whole is for the presentation.
Yeah.
And I don't need that presentation anymore. So I don't see the need. I'm actually going to send you this so you can see if you can share it because it's hilarious.
Nice to get that good Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation looking turkey.
Right. The one where he cuts it and the whole thing deflates.
A little dry.
Right. It's a little dry. We got gravy. So, but that's now that I've learned that, I don't need to spend 6 hours cooking this giant bird so that some of it's dry, some of it's not dry. Right? See? So now that I've learned about spatchcocking the birds, it cooks the bird faster. And to be honest with you, a lot of times I'll dismantle and cut it up into pieces because of the fact that different parts of the bird cook different speeds. So when you cook the whole turkey like that, a lot of times you end up with bits that are dry. You end up with bits that are, overcooked and underdone and not done. So to me, I've just found over the time that I don't necessarily need that presentation wow factor to put a giant bird on the table and carve the bird.
Right.
I mean, if I ever entertain again, maybe I will if I did this, big giant thing. But I've also found, I love turkey. See, this is just hilarious, right?
We'll get this up there. Let's put it out there for everybody to see.
So as much as I like turkey, and we still do the turkey every year, and I end up buying 2 turkeys, and I get one specifically to make, turkey pot pie and things of that nature. But there's no reason that you can't do like a game hen or a small, especially now that a lot of poultry in the aspect of just plain chicken, you can find not brined.
Yeah.
It's very hard because turkey, you only find turkey in season. You can find ground turkey all year round. But to be able to find, we're both going to be staring at each other because if you're not on Facebook and you can see the Facebook Live of this turkey that I do.
Hey, there's a lot of turkeys that want to be eagles, but I didn't know that one wanted to be spread eagle.
I know. It was but it cooked so fast. My husband and I were dying laughing. It was so funny.
And it was probably delicious.
It was absolutely delicious.
Right.
It was easier to handle. That also was there's another one that I have where the turkey actually laid a lot more flat. But that turkey was much smaller.
That might be that may become the 21/6 the net Thanksgiving.
The new logo. Usually, I wish I had a picture of my husband's face when he walked around the corner and saw that sitting on the counter raw, just in the pan. Like, what are you doing? Oh my God, it was so funny.
It's like the ones that you see sitting, they take them and they sit them in the sink like they're taking a bath in the sink.
Right. But that's the thing is now that we don't, we haven't entertained as much as far as the big spread, the big family, bunches of people and all this stuff there. So I have no problems doing game hens or, smaller birds for that same purpose because they're easier to get. They're easier to get that are unbrined. and they're less expensive. When you get an unbrined bird, even in the grocery store, they're not cheap. And unfortunately, as much as I want everybody to buy their turkeys fresh from the farm, not everybody can afford that.
Yeah,
that's just fact. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So when you get this, you're going to chop it in half, but you're not going to cook the whole thing. You're going to, how you said you're never going to cook an entire bird again.
No, I'm not going to cook it whole.
Whole. Okay.
Like this, that is missing, that funky looking bird on the screen is missing its spine. So the whole back of that cavity is open and is essentially getting steamed.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So when
you'll cook the whole thing, just not like a big butterball.
That was a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. The next season, I carved the bird in advance. So essentially, like not full carved, but I cut it down into legs, wings, breasts, pulled it all apart and cut it up like that, and then cooked it in pieces in the same pan.
Yeah.
But that allowed for everything to cook at a more even pace.
Okay.
And not dry out, because it does have that juice in the bottom of the pan. You still can cook, the giblets and make the gravy and all this other stuff. I've also found that with gravy, especially if you have a good like Ninja blender or good blender or a food processor that's good, the easiest way that I found to make gravy is to literally blend everything that's in the bottom of the pan. I don't do flour. I mean, sometimes I'll thicken it a little bit, but just from the vegetables and onions and celery and carrots and the giblets and the sauce. And I use a vegetable stock because it is a little bit higher in sodium, but the flavor that the vegetable stock imparts into that almost broth before you turn it into a gravy is more of a salted flavor than a chicken or a turkey stock. So that since I'm not cooking with any added salt, it does add that flavor. And I just throw all of that into a blender and blend it in batches, meat, giblets, and all. And it turns into the perfect gravy. Nice. It's faster. I don't have to mess around with a roux. I don't have to worry about lumps. Like it's not perfect, but who cares? It tastes good. And I've been trying to use less and less added things, like added flours, added sugars, the same as you shouldn't be living off white bread.
Right.
There's no need, the only reason you're adding flour to make a gravy is because it's a textural thing. We all, we were just talking a second ago about how we're addicted to potato chips.
Oh, yeah, delish.
So I mean, it's the crunch, it's the salt, it's that feeling more than it is that I want the flavor of a potato chips.
Correct.
It doesn't matter. You put Doritos, Fritos, plain, unsalted. If it's a crunchy potato chip in front of me, I'm going to eat half the bag. And I'm going to be happy with it.
That's right.
It doesn't matter. So a long time, I'm like, why do I need to mess around trying to make a roux and make this gravy, especially when it's just me and my husband? And I just wanted something to put on my mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
So now I just blend it all up and it makes the easiest gravy. And if you want to thicken it.
Real butter and garlic. That's all you need to put on your potatoes.
Always. I will say a few years ago, someone, and we had talked about it on one of the shows, that someone had told me that actual chefs in actual restaurants, whether you're a classically trained chef or just someone with years of experience cooking in a kitchen, and it's 1 to 3 garlic cloves per serving. Like they use, if they call it garlic scampi, it's garlic. So I have since started doing the same thing. And now, I mean, the last time I made mashed potatoes, I think Ben ate half the pot. Oh. I'm like, you bet you're going to get some serious gut rot if you pack your entire intestine with 6 pounds of potatoes. It can be detrimental.
It can.
I think his worst experience ever was with pasticcio. He had 3 pieces. And for those of you that don't know, it's a Greek lasagna with a bechamel. So it's like meat sauce and pasta and bechamel, and it's just carb on carb on carb, thick, and it's amazing. Especially when it's done by somebody's Greek grandmother. It's absolutely amazing. I'm sure Kiki's mom probably makes a killer pasticcio. Yeah, killer. But Ben had one piece, was like, oh my God, because we'd never had it. I'm going to have seconds. After seconds, he's like, I know I'm going to regret this. I'm going to have thirds. He didn't have like, I'm going to have a piece, right, and then I'm going to have a little bit more and a little bit more. I'm going to have a piece, and then I'm going to have another piece, and I'm going to have another piece. So he ate like half a pan of pasticcio.
Cover me, I'm going in.
Oh, he paid for that for like 3 days. Yeah, it was brutally bad. So
the birds are America's holiday protein.
They are. Other country, I mean, you go to Italy, they're probably cooking rabbit. Many countries are going to do goat.
Big time.
And obviously Thanksgiving is our holiday.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that celebrate it internationally because their roots are here.
Yeah.
But when you look at all of these dishes that surround the holidays, and that's one of my favorite things to do, is ask somebody, what's your tradition? You know, steak and lobster. Like, what's your holiday, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, middle of June, like Day of the Dead, whatever your main favorite holiday of the year, St. Patrick's Day. What is that dish that you're eating? Because mine, it wouldn't be Thanksgiving. It would be St. Patty's Day.
Oh.
Like if I could have
corned beef and cabbage.
God rest him, if I could have Mitch's corned beef all the time. And yes, I know the recipe's out there and I know I could make it. It's not the same.
Not the same. We talked about that. Yeah.
But I can't have corned beef cabbage. The corned beef is literally the act of corning is salting. It's like a good dill pickle. I make good dill pickles. Still not the same. Still, I mean, there's certain things like salt on a tomato. I still have Himalayan sea salt in my cabinet. Although I was picking on Ben. He made a weed killer out of salt and vinegar or something.
Yeah.
And so there's this tub of like the 1 pound jug of table salt.
Yeah.
So I opened my pantry and I was like, what the hell is this? Why'd you? And then he explained. I was like, wow, that's the first time I think my liver failed in 2015. So I'm like, that's the first time I've had salt in the house. So I was kind of weird where it came from. Like, did you finally get sick of eating no salt meals?
What happened here?
Right. What's your favorite holiday dish out of all of the holidays?
You know, I'm a lot like you. I'm a potato slut, so it really doesn't matter as long as there's good potatoes.
As long as I can mix some mashed potatoes with it.
At Thanksgiving, I am the potato masher. So we boil the potatoes. I'm the one who
you whip them or you hand mash.
No, hand mash.
Gotta have some lumps.
Yeah, absolutely, and just enough butter and heavy cream, whatever in there you're putting, just to make sure that the consistency's right. So I'm kind of that way. I like turkey. I'm not. I don't like Easter ham. Ham's a breakfast meat for me.
I like ham sandwiches and stuff, and I'm not saying I don't like ham.
Right, but it's not the main shouldn't be the star protein of the meal. Unless it's on a sandwich,
right?
So, but to me, it really doesn't matter if it's pheasant, quail, if it's a bird. I enjoy bird. Yeah. If it's a go-to, like if you set me in front of anything, you give me a good seafood boil.
I've only had a couple of those, and I have to say, when done right, they are amazing.
I love, and people think I'm weird, but I love crawdads. I mean, I'll eat
all day long,
all day.
Suck the little heads out.
Yep.
Lately, so I've discovered, I didn't discover goat cheese. I've long used goat cheese.
Always good.
But they have this little tiny packet, almost looks like the size of an old school film canister, of garlic and herb goat cheese.
Ooh.
Doesn't matter what brand. Anywhere from 90 to 125 milligrams of sodium for the whole packet. And it's, creamy goat cheese. It's 4 servings. So it's, like I said, it's about 400 milligrams for this whole thing. And lately I keep those on hand all the time because I will make my mashed potatoes exactly like I always did. Yeah. And then I will throw that whole package in there and melt it in there.
Oh.
So it's butter and garlic, a boatload of pepper, and one of those packages of garlic herb goat cheese. It's not enough sodium to make it to where I can't eat it. It's not enough sodium to make it where I can't eat a giant heaping portion of it. Because even if I ate the whole bowl of mashed potatoes, it's still only 400 added milligrams because potatoes have negligible sodium at best. Yeah. So same with, we do lately a lot of broccoli cheese rice. Same thing, cook rice in vegetable stock, not water. And instead of 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice, I do 4 cups of vegetable stock to 1 cup of rice. Cook it all down. Once it's cooked, depending on the rice, anywhere from 13 to 45 minutes, because like a brown rice is going to take more like 30 minutes. Yeah. So I double that water. It's a whole box of, I use Pacific Foods low sodium vegetable stock. But cook it down and then add steamed broccoli and a packet of that goat cheese, and it makes the absolute perfect.
That sounds delicious. Sounds delicious.
Why?
And with the bird, as I go to that, it's got to be done right. So I'm still kind of that snobbish. If it's dry and it's like, and you need to put the gravy and everything on it just to if it's butchered, it's too long, it's too dry.
And that's part of the reason I've taken lately to cutting it up in pieces and cooking it, because I don't have that issue anymore. I really don't. And I mean, that's part of the reason why so many birds are brined, is they're more difficult to overcook because of that salt. It breaks down the meat. So, and I will say that farm birds are a little bit more temperamental because they do have less fat in it. And
or like pheasant or something like that. Yeah, wild game. Yeah.
Right. And you don't think of poultry as a whole as being a fatty bird, and they are, especially now from the grocery store. If you pay attention, when the next time you're looking at chicken, and those chicken breasts now have white stripes in them. They've always had a certain content of fat because we've been breeding chickens to be fatter and fatter and fatter with each subsequent generation. You go overseas to Italy or somewhere, they still look like roosters. They're still running around skinny as hell, and one bird might feed one person. Like they're skinny little things. But now, like it's causing textural differences where my husband and I have found that we eat so much less poultry than we used to because the texture has changed, because these birds are so fat and the fat content has changed the texture of the breast meat. There's actually a thing called woody breast where the breast meat of the chicken is crunchy. And it's the weirdest thing to me, and I can't stand it. It's like, no matter how you cook it, it can be perfect, and it's still not tender, fall apart, shred up. It's crunchy, and it's the weirdest thing, and it drives me nuts. So now primarily almost all of our proteins come from a farm so that we don't have that problem. And ironically, since I've been buying all my poultry from the farm, I haven't overcooked a bird since, knock on wood, because right, it just hasn't happened. So, you know, what's funny, you talk about ham. Occasionally, because Ben still likes a ham sandwich, I'll have ham. I'm a fan of Boar's Head because their products are good. Good. Not just good tasting, but they actually, their processing and everything is better than most, especially for lunch meat. But ham, I mean, it's 350 to 13, 14, 1500 milligrams of sodium per serving and up. And I mean, my legs get fat with water just thinking about it. So I just skip the ham entirely. I don't even bother unless it's not even ham, because I make pork all the time and I get pork shoulder all the time. I mean, I buy pig either. I actually have one coming, I think the end of November here. I get guinea hog. Every time I say guinea pig, someone's like, what? Guinea hog looks like a potbelly pig. And to me, it's one of the best tasting pigs out there. I honestly don't think that I can go back now. It's sweeter. I'll have to bring some in for you. It's absolutely amazing. So I'll get the ham hocks and stuff like that, but it's not ham. It hasn't been cured, hasn't been salted, hasn't been
Right.
aged. It's
pork.
pork. It's just that cut that they normally salt and cure and turn into a ham. So it still seasons my white bean soups and stuff like that. And it's amazing. It's just the salt behind the ham is just not worth it. Do you guys, on your holiday table, is there normally that cheese ball?
No. I mean,
See, I had a friend. It was always
my wife's
like it wasn't Thanksgiving until you had the cheese ball.
Yeah, that's really the Christmas with my wife's family. Otherwise, no, no.
Yeah, no.
With the shaved walnuts or whatever.
Yeah.
Almonds on it.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't like cheese, but
no.
I'll eat it.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was this goofy thing. You have this big smorgasbord of food.
Yeah.
And it's not set until you got that stupid cheese ball.
We do have the we do have the cranberry can mold.
See, that's a nostalgic thing for me because I take it back. My corned beef and cabbage is actually still going to be my favorite meal, but one of my all-time favorites is the Thanksgiving sandwich.
Oh yeah.
You know, the leftover turkey, the leftover stuffing, the can molded cranberry sauce slice. Like there's nothing better than that, especially when somebody else makes it for you.
That's right. On toast.
Yes.
That's right.
Toasted rye. Toasted rye. That's hilarious.
That's it.
And everybody always forgets the dinner rolls.
Now, when you're doing the bird, are you an injector? Do you inject? You know how they have the flavors? Or are you a rub, or are you just let's butter it and roll?
I do an herb rub.
Okay.
So under the skin, because when you separate the skin from the bird, over the entire bird, that's how you get crispy skin. Because there's a layer of fat that holds the skin to the flesh of the bird.
Okay.
So when you separate those two things, and I do an unsalted butter and herb and olive oil with rosemary, sage, thyme, and a boatload of garlic.
Yeah. Amazing.
And you literally just shove it all up under there and you coat the entire underside between the skin and the meat.
Yeah.
And ultimately just handling the whole bird, you end up getting it on the outside as well.
Yeah.
But by separating the skin, that's what gets you that beautiful, crusty, crunchy outside.
Delish.
And what I found is a cheat so that you get kind of that salty flavor to the skin is, in the last, 20 minutes of cooking the bird, that's when I uncover it and let the skin crisp up as much as possible. But I will spray it with butter spray.
Oh.
Because you can't get, so it'll say that it's 0 sodium. It is not 0 sodium.
Yeah.
When you buy butter spray and it says 0, because if it's below, I think 5 milligrams per serving, they can say that it's 0 sodium when it's not. Because it's made with real butter. There is actual dairy in there. And if there's dairy in there, there's salt in there. So if you use the whole can, it's still going to be negligible. But because it's salted butter, salted cream inside that can, it adds enough of a salted flavor to the outside of that bird, gives it that butter flavor on the outside of the skin that makes it like a guilty pleasure for me when you're cooking the bird. So yeah, I stopped brining when I got sick because obviously I can't soak a bird in salted water anymore. And usually when you inject stuff, you're injecting it with that brine. So when you inject it with that salt, you're just essentially, tripling the amount of sodium in the poultry. And I find that it's just as flavorful if you just, do the rub and keep it that way, because then you can avoid having the salt overdose and not have to worry about it. Especially if you put something like paprika or something on the skin to give it a little bit of heat.
Yeah, little
texture.
Yeah. The other, as we talk about injectors for your bird, is the big mistake is people just start poking that bird everywhere. Pop, pop, pop.
Right.
And the best thing you can do is go through the same hole.
Mm-hmm.
Just move your syringe around through that same hole, because now you're not
creating all these channels for everything to just ooze out.
Yeah, right.
And I tend to go up at the top where it would be the neck, and you go right down the breastbone.
Yeah.
So if you follow that breastbone, and then you shoot off to the sides. So you're not actually stabbing holes through the breast of the bird. You're stabbing holes through the rib of the neck, that collarbone area, that wishbone area, because it seals up faster. And then you have a better thing. But I also, I mean, now that I hack my bird up, I don't really have to worry about it. It just kind of sits in the juices with the bones, and it cooks out perfectly. How about the other guilty pleasure that I can't have anymore is the croissants.
Oh.
I mean, if I had a bakery closer where I could just go and get fresh croissants for Thanksgiving Day, I totally would. Or if I was talented enough to make homemade croissants, because that's why everybody makes the ones in the tube, because croissants are really hard to make.
Yep.
But that's why they're an addiction, because it's just a salted tube of dough, buttery salted tube of dough.
Yep. Yeah, that's it, and that's why it's so good.
It is.
That's why it's so good.
I have to say, in all honesty, I've been more of a fan of the game birds lately than I have. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets their own little game bird. You get all the bits. You get the legs and the thighs and the breasts. I mean, it's a tiny little bird, but there's something about it that even though you're eating less, the amount of effort that goes into getting all of those bits off, it still feels like you're eating the same amount of food. Yeah. Because otherwise, I'll go back for turkey 6 times.
Are you talking grouse or like pheasant or Cornish hen? What do you know?
I like the Cornish hens.
Yeah.
I mean, I like all of them. I think probably just because they're the most readily available.
Yeah.
That are easy to get.
And it's always fun to spit out the done shot. What was that?
The buckshot.
The buckshot, yeah.
Pa-ding! Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
I think you can get very creative with the birds, and I like what I've never what do you call it, spatchcocked it, right? But that's interesting to me because it's always you plop it in the pan, you squirt it with the baster, you move on, right? You cook it for 5 hours.
Yep.
But that's I'm gonna have to try that, and it's I've never thought of that. You've done it with chicken, especially on the grill.
Yep. Put a brick on it.
Yeah.
And it is hilarious because when you're wrestling with this bird and you do, I'm not gonna lie, you need a pair of sharp kitchen shears.
Yeah.
Or you need to be really skilled with a knife because you're gonna cut off a finger. You can use a butcher knife and butcher the bird, and I'm sure butchers all over the planet do it every day and don't have a problem.
Right.
I'm talented with a knife. I am not talented enough to hold up a 15-pound bird and hack its spine out. So I use kitchen shears. And even when you use the shears, it still takes a decent amount of effort because turkeys are big birds.
Yeah.
So I've done it twice, and both times it turned out fabulous because you're literally opening it up to steam like a clamshell. The whole back of it is open. You can see in the picture that it's not very flat.
Right.
But that, I think it was a 15-pound bird because the girl I get my birds from Hephzibah Farms, her daughter grabbed the wrong turkey out of the fridge and gave my turkey to somebody else. So she's like, the only one I have left is this giant. Because normally I get a smaller bird. It's just me and Ben.
Right.
I don't need a 16-pound bird for me and Ben. So I tell her every season, literally give me the runt of your whole batch. I want the smallest 11-pound bird you've got. And that's usually about as small as you can get them.
Yeah. So does Ben go right for the drumstick? I mean, do you rip that off and eat it like a caveman?
No, we're gluttons. We don't make small plates.
Right.
So it's usually a bit of everything.
Yeah, you have to.
And we're going back for seconds. So it's really, it usually is whatever I end up cutting off the bird first.
Mm-hmm.
But now the last probably year or so that I've been making poultry, it's very rare that it's a whole bird. It's cut up or spatchcocked and it's already pretty much in pieces because once I lay it flat, all of those joints are already dislocated and broken. So you snip a piece of skin and you have the whole thing off. But ultimately, we demolish we eat way more than we should in one single serve. We have zero portion control in my house.
Yep. Oh no, everybody does, especially when it comes to the holidays. And then after that we do what? We sit and eat pie.
Right.
See,
I get criticism because I will do pumpkin cake, but I am not a pumpkin pie person.
My son, listen to this. My son doesn't like the crust, so his grandmother will make him pumpkin pie, no crust, just
like a pumpkin pudding
type of a thing, just cooked. It's delicious.
Leave it to grandma to spoil the grandbabies.
That's right.
That's funny. I'm the same way with lemon meringue pie though. I mean, I like pie crust, but I don't like the meringue.
Yeah.
It's just a boring, fluffy egg white.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
nothing to it.
I don't like egg white omelets. I don't like meringue, and I don't like meringue cookies. Like it's a fluffy air of nothingness. So and especially since what's with the giant mound? Like, why do you need 9 inches of meringue and then an inch of yellow custard?
Right. I don't get it. And then hit it with a torch so it browns up a little bit.
Right. I want burnt egg 10 inches deep with a hint of lemon.
And as a kid, you hit it like, oh, look at that whipped cream. Oh.
Yeah. Ooh. Right. The disappointment on a child's face. This is not whipped cream. Yeah. No, it is not. It is not. What is not whipped cream. I'd have to say I'm actually going to make, I have some blueberries coming from the farm. I just ordered a big giant vat of blueberries from Dykstra's farm.
Awesome.
And I'm telling you, people, you need to make some relationships with some farmers because the way that me and my husband eat now, I can't imagine the garbage that we ate before. But I've always made, and I think you might have had it in the past, blueberry ginger jam.
Yeah, you brought that. Yeah.
And it's not thick enough to be a jam, but it's not thin enough to be a syrup. It's somewhere in between. Why? Because I'm not that good of a cook. That's just the truth of it. But it tastes amazing. So I was talking about it and they said their favorite pie is blueberry pie. I'm like, how come I should just need to make that blueberry ginger jam as a pie?
Oh, that would be delicious, actually.
Right. So I mean, all it is it's just not as cooked down. You don't cook it so far that it's a jam, so it still has chunky blueberries in it. Right. So when I get she just messaged me yesterday. So in a couple of weeks, I got to go pick up, I think I got 5 pounds of blueberries coming, something like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I've never been a pie person. Mostly because I go back for so many servings of Thanksgiving that unless it's like a chocolate silk pie, because I'm not going to say no to chocolate. That's just, I mean, it's just not going to happen.
I don't know why you would.
No. So when there's a French silk pie on the table, I will probably have a bite regardless of how painfully full I am.
Yeah.
But especially now, whether I want to or not, I do have to watch portion control because I have to run the risk of getting fatty liver. So I can't just stuff myself so unbelievably full that I can't move because I'll feel it for a week. That being said, now that I have had this idea to have blueberry pie, I have been salivating for a week now thinking about making this stupid pie, but I just haven't because the blueberries are really expensive, and since I'm getting them from the farm, I'm just going to be patient and wait for my little blueberry pie. So the biggest thing I think around the holidays and being healthy outside of because the biggest thing about the bird is finding an unbrined bird, and that right there is going to cut a huge portion of your salt down. But if you can watch your portion sizes and make sure that you know, if you're going to a dinner at somebody else's place, and I've said this a million times before, if they don't know what your restrictions are, then there's going to be nothing there for you to eat. And you're going to be stuck at the veggie tray. So when you educate people on what your restrictions are, and it doesn't mean they have to make an entire meal just for you, but it means that you have a better idea and you can ask them how they make stuff, where they get stuff from, what kind of recipe do they use. And then you can have an idea of what you can eat. And worst case scenario, offer to bring something, a dish to pass, as it were. give you a better shot at not being miserable after the holidays. Because as much as it's nice to join everybody for the holidays, I speak from experience. When you go to a holiday party and you graze and you graze and you eat all of these things, and then you come home and you want to die for the next 3 days. It's bad enough that healthy people want to die for 5 hours after eating Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
When you have an ailment of some kind, you feel it for a long time. And it's just, to me, it's just not worth it. Even being a foodie, I still have to say that, I tend to be a little bit more well-behaved, as it were.
Yep.
So it's funny digging through all of my holiday notes over the seasons. I forgot about stuffed mushrooms. As I'm looking at my notes, I think I brought those in for you guys one time. And
I think Pete ate him before I got here.
Probably that was his MO.
Yeah.
That was his MO. And I did bring food in today. So since Phil wasn't here today, he doesn't get any. He didn't get any last week. He doesn't get any this week. Sorry, Phil.
You lose. Yeah.
And the sauce broke on that one. I don't care. It still tastes really good. And you will probably eat it cold. It's like almost like a hamburger helper kind of thing.
I love it.
But I found some of my old food trivia. We used to do the food trivia at the end of the shows for a while. And some of these are pretty funny. Like the one that we were talking about before here that I forgot about is, what is the unlikely medical use for coconut water? And as I was reading some of these, and I realized that I might go back to doing the fun food trivia, because it's interesting to find these stupid, quirky things. Like, everybody knows there used to be cocaine in Coca-Cola.
Right. And
you're going, what? But the unlikely medical use for coconut water was a substitute for blood plasma. Like, who discovered that?
Right.
Is my question. We don't have any blood plasma. Let's try sticking some coconut water in this guy's vein.
What are you drinking?
Right. It's close enough.
Give me that.
It's not identical.
It looks the same.
I mean, you can't. They don't use it regularly, but I guess in medical emergencies you can use it.
Right.
The other one was the stickers on fruits and vegetables are edible. And I'm sure that's because somebody got sued because their kid choked on it or something. Sticker.
Yeah.
Eating the things before. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I have been known. I forget, what was it? A Rice Krispie treat I think I was eating.
Okay.
And I took a bite out of this Rice Krispie treat, and I turn around and Ben looks at me and goes, "Did you eat the plastic?" Full blown took a bite out of the plastic bag that was surrounding the Rice Krispie treat.
Maybe.
This is exactly how people end up eating the edible fruit stickers on fruits. So the other one, some of these are pretty common that we know now. What is the only edible food that never goes bad?
Honey.
Yeah. See,
Yeah, honey.
We know the honey one. Garlic helps prevent heart disease. Helps to lower what level? Helps to lower the level of what in your blood?
Bad
juju.
Yeah. Bad cholesterol.
Yes, you're right. 100%. Raw garlic helps prevent heart disease. It is said that taking a half to 1 clove of garlic a day can decrease cholesterol levels by 10%.
I eat a lot of. Do you get bothered by mosquitoes? Do they bite you? See, I eat a lot of garlic and I don't. So I always say maybe that thing.
Maybe it's the garlic.
Maybe it's the garlic.
It's the vampire in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they did a study about that where they like certain types of blood types.
Okay.
So maybe they just don't like your blood type.
It must not.
I don't know. I have a pretty common blood type, so I'm not worried about that. There was another thing that I had read recently because, I read too many medical studies about all of these different things. And as they're discovering more in these researches about the viruses and all of the stuff that's going on right now, obviously, and they have discovered that there's certain people who have a genetic trait that their body automatically regulates their cholesterol. It's a rare thing, and it's a low portion of people, but it's the same with there's certain people who can't get AIDS. They discovered that not too long ago, so they're trying to reverse engineer and find out ways through stem cell processes and things of that nature that they can mimic that in other people, so that people, because the way that the cellular structure is to receive viruses. Certain people, it's like, round hole, square peg. The AIDS virus just can't attach to their cellular structure because of their genetic makeup. And that's certain people. I was just reading it yesterday that certain people their body naturally regulates their cholesterol. And it's fascinating to me because there's certain groups of people and ethnicities that they're discovering. There's a whole culture, I think, down in Mexico. I forget. I wish I would have remembered the article. But there's something, it's along that lines. It might even be the AIDS virus. There's something that they can't get. Like their whole culture, like that whole group and origin of people just don't get it. And that's where they're trying to revert. It's the same, with COVID. They started discovering that some people, no matter how much they were around others, and they discovered it with hospital workers. People with COVID coming in and out, coming and going all day long, and they just didn't get it. Vaccinated, not vaccinated, didn't matter. There's just a certain population of the people that their body is made up to not get it. The other fun food trivias that boggle my mind are the ones that are related to how food used to be, like how skinny chickens used to be, or that like carrots used to be purple, not orange. And ketchup was created for like medical use. It was a medicinal drug. Ketchup was claimed to cure illnesses like indigestion and diarrhea. And they also sold tomato pills for the same purpose. And we all know that now to not be true. Ketchup is just a sugar salted tomato bomb that now that I shouldn't say can't. I can actually have more salt now than I used to because I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty healthy. But now it's amazing how much I can taste the salt in everything. Ketchup is nothing but a salt bomb, and I used to salt my ketchup.
Where was I? No, I don't even know. I was someplace and I had barbecue.
Right.
So it's pulled pork, and the salt in that pulled pork about turned me inside out.
Right. It burns your tongue.
I mean, I was just like, whoa. I mean, it was delicious, but literally it made me pucker because of how much salt was in there.
I think that's part of the reason why I'm not a fan of turkey anymore, because turkey sandwiches and ground turkey, and because turkey is almost always brined, that I just can't stand it. I've every once in a while, so we have our board meetings for the Rotary at Panera, and every once in a while I'll be like, oh, that sounds good. I'm going to get a turkey sandwich. And I mean, in the time it takes me to finish that meal, I can feel my ankles getting fatter. Yeah. Like I'm leaching salt into my body, which we had a pretty funny conversation. One of my fellow Rotarians, we're standing there in line getting ready to order something. I'm trying to pick what I'm going to order at Panera because nothing is good for me there.
No.
Absolutely nothing. And he's like, what, you never been here? I said, no, I've been here. I can't eat anything here. Nothing is good for me at this. And he says, no, that can't be. I said, no, soup and sandwiches.
No good.
Lunch meat and bread that you shouldn't be eating. It's, useless carbs, super salted lunch meat. And I mean, the soups taste amazing. Yeah. I'm not saying they don't, but they taste amazing because they're heavily salted. Yeah. So the only soup they have that doesn't taste salty to me is their tomato soup. Huh. But that's okay because I love tomato soup. That's my favorite.
That's your favorite?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I like a good potato soup, but potato soup has to be salted, so I'm a big tomato soup.
I had a really nice garlicky broccoli cheddar soup the other day.
I miss broccoli cheddar soup. That's another one that's heavily salted. Yeah. Every time, everywhere I go, I look at the back of the bottle and I'm like, man, I wish I could.
It was Aldi's signature, whatever.
Sure.
And even after we washed the plastic thing, because we always wash it out before we throw it out, you could smell the garlic. Alice is like, how much garlic did you put in here? I go, none. It was delicious.
Right? I will say that, and I'm kind of bummed that Aldi rotates their products so much. Mm-hmm. But Aldi was one of the first. I mean, they're an offshoot of Trader Joe's. Yeah. They were one of the first to coin the low sodium products. So a very large portion of the stuff that you can find at Aldi is low sodium. They used to have this pizza And I still go because they rotate their product about every quarter.
Yeah.
So if you find it in February, you might find it next February. So I go back on a regular basis to try and find this pizza because even Ben, we were both like, this is really good for being a low sodium pizza, because unfortunately between the crust and the sauce, and then you add cheese on top of it, most pizza is way out of the sodium range for me. Although I did have a pepperoni pizza from Uncle Jerry's in Cary not too long ago, and I paid for it, but to their credit, it was amazing. So sometimes it's a little worth it to splurge and suffer, and I mean, if you can, I should say. I would say if you can. You, speaking of if you can, as somebody who's on your weight loss journey, losing pounds, and other than potato chips that we've talked about, what is the number one thing that you've realized that you had in excess of before and didn't realize it?
Added sugar.
That's
added. It's in everything. And there was a I don't know, you'd call it a class or whatever. There's a video, and it showed like just basically what I would have eaten on a regular day, the amount of added sugar that was in there, and it was like a cereal bowl full of sugar. You know, just from your latte that you would get to the fast food thing that you would get to the whatever you made for dinner, and then the cookie, and it wasn't like it was just all junk food. It was like,
right,
this is what's coming out of your, this is what you're putting in your body. And I was always careful of the sodium because of this show, and staying to that 2300 as close as we could, but to really look at and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that had that much sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the absolute joys that Alice and I have found in this is that whipped cream only has 1 gram of added sugar. Whipped cream, and so you can get that sweet fix that you want with the strawberry or blueberry, and the whipped cream, and not have a lot of added sugar. So sometimes I'll just walk by, grab a spoon, have a spoon of whipped cream.
Yeah, I mean it's processed fat,
right?
But it's still, you're right, and mine has been honey, because other than the creamer that we put in our coffee in the morning, and I don't always have creamer in my coffee. I'm a huge fan of lattes where it's not even a flavor, it's just espresso and cream. But the benefits of honey, they don't completely outweigh the fact that it's sugar. But it is a balanced glucose, fructose, and for what you're getting, it's the safer choice. But the same thing, when we first started watching everything, and I went, man, just the stupid little fig bars that I was buying. And I've since switched to yogurt and fruit, not sugared yogurt, because that is the common misconception is, you get these yogurts and they're good for you, and they're not. So it's, my phone's doing something funky.
Always good.
And, it's, you have to be careful, because those yogurts, a lot of times they're 20, 30, milligrams of added sugar just to make them sweeter, so you'll eat them. So I just stick with the plain yogurt and add some honey to it. So as always, we love having you guys, and we're on multiple sources here. So if you follow us on YouTube, you follow us on Facebook, and you can also download the app to the station to listen to. We still have an app, yeah?
No. The app is gone. We went with a whole new back end. We're going to be having a widget. We'll have a widget out there. But you can go to radio.garden, and just punch in 216 the net, and you'll find us. And we're working on updating the website, so you'll have a widget that you can put on your phone and just listen.
Play it. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
My Facebook notifies me every time there's a show, so I don't have to worry about that. So.
Yep. So you can listen all the time. We're putting a lot of new music out there right now. If you enjoy gangster rap, that seems to be the first stuff that we've uploaded. We're working on other playlists.
That's funny. That makes the other day a whole lot more sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, So coming up after you, it looks like NWA always into something.
Nice. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening in.
That's it.
That's funny. Gangster rap. A lot more sense why you guys are like that about that.